Beyond the System by G. Kitsune. Chapter 5. Burned Bridges. Walking into the Awakener felt different today, though I couldn't decide whether that was because the world had changed or because I had. For the first time in over a year, I didn't feel the weight of resignation pulling at my steps. I'd always appreciated the paycheck. It was steady, reliable, and enough to keep me comfortable. But the environment? That was another story. The tips had always been generous, sure. Hunters like to throw money around after surviving a day inside a gate. But even though I was consistently one of the top earners, my base pay had never moved a single digit. Not once. Of course, I knew exactly why. If I'd been willing to kneel, crawl, or spread my legs for the boss, I'd be living far more luxuriously by now. Most of the current employees had done it, and their paychecks showed it. Raises, bonuses, perks, all tied neatly to how accommodating they were. But me? No, never. I refused to give that bastard the satisfaction, and because I refused, he raised the stakes. Just last week, he had looked me dead in the eye and promised to triple my pay if I gave him a single night. Just one night. The smug confidence dripping off his face had been nauseating. Watching his expression crumble when I shut him down instantly, that had been priceless. So of course, today of all days, he was the very first person I ran into. I had barely stepped through the back entrance when his greasy figure rounded the corner, blocking the hallway like an obstacle I hadn't asked for. He wore his usual ill-fitting business suit, the cheap fabric straining against his gut. His thinning brown hair was combed over in a desperate attempt to hide the inevitable. And of course, that grin, a disgusting grin he always wore whenever he spotted one of his girls. In his eyes, this place wasn't a restaurant. It was his personal harem. "Hello, Chloe," he said with a tone that caused multiple dry heaves, stepping closer like I'd given him permission with my eyes or something. My body tensed automatically. As expected, his arm reached out, aiming for my waist. I shifted back and casually smacked his hand away. "This is sexual harassment, sir," I said flatly, the same thing I'd told him 1,000 times before. He chuckled, as if I were teasing instead of warning him. "Oh, come on, don't be like that. I've come with a proposal." "Not interested," I shot back instantly. He could offer me the entire world with an unlimited bank card, and I still wouldn't be with a man like him. His smirk faltered for only a second before returning. "Don't turn it down just yet." I exhaled loudly through my nose, giving him a look so indifferent it could sour milk. Against my better judgment, I waited. I already knew whatever came out of his mouth would be garbage, but maybe I could get a good laugh before shutting him down. He paused dramatically, like he was about to bestow upon me some great gift. "If you become my wife," he said slowly, "I will give you everything you could ever dream of. A multi-million-dollar home, several cars, even a yacht. Anything you want, Chloe? All yours." I stared at him, expression blank. Inside, I was cackling. The sheer audacity of this man never ceased to amaze me. He was at an age that he could literally be my father, and he still offered such a thing. He mistook my silence for hesitation. His grin widened, his eyes gleaming like he had finally won. I let him bask in it for a heartbeat. Then, with a deliberately slow exhale, I tilted my head, feigning thoughtfulness. "If you really want to throw all that away," I said softly, pausing just long enough for his grin to sharpen. "Then go offer it to Amber. I'm sure she'd accept." The shift in his face was glorious. His hopeful smirk twitched, sagged, then contorted into a scowl. His beady little eyes narrowed, fury barely concealed behind his professional mask. "You think you're clever," he hissed, his voice dropping. "No," I corrected, my lips curving into the faintest smile. "I know I am. Even if he were the last man on Earth, I'd still rather enjoy my own company than indulge in anything with him." He bristled, jaw tightening, but he didn't push further. Maybe he knew it was useless, or maybe he was waiting for another opportunity to corner me. Either way, I'd won this round, and I savored it, because today was different. He didn't know it, but I wasn't the same powerless girl who had spent the last year dodging his advances. There was fire inside me now, both literal and otherwise. I could feel it flickering beneath the mark on my hand. A quiet reminder that Inari was watching, listening, and waiting. If he pushed me too far, I flexed my fingers, feeling the warmth pulse faintly beneath my skin. there was no longer a reason to feel cornered. That thought alone was enough to make me stand straighter, my smile sharp as glass. "Excuse me," I said lightly, brushing past him without another glance. As I sprinted past him, I could feel the heat of his anger rising, the way his breaths grew heavier behind me. My skin prickled with a warning. I should have kept walking, but before I could get too far, his hand shot out, fingers clamped around my arm, hard enough to make me wince. With a violent yank, he whipped me around, pulling me off balance. I stumbled straight into his chest, his rancid cologne flooding my nose. And then I saw it. His lips puckered, his face leaning closer, eyes glinting with sick satisfaction. My heart lurched, panic roared through me, pure, primal, desperate. Of all the things in this world, the thought of this man stealing my first kiss was unbearable. Not him, not ever. But before I could shove him away, it happened. Both of his eyebrows ignited. Flames burst across his forehead with a whoosh, devouring the last wisps of thinning hair he'd so pathetically combed over. He screamed, staggering back, slapping at his face as the fire spread in short, angry bursts. I jumped back, wide-eyed, my pulse racing. "Inari," I whispered. Warmth pulsed from the mark, the comforting presence of my fox spirit wrapping around me like a shield. She had done it. She had protected me when I needed her most. My panic dulled, replaced by a rush of gratitude so deep it almost hurt. God, I loved this fox girl already. The most important thing now was clear. I had to start growing stronger, and the only way to do that was in the gates. But for now, fate had handed me the perfect opportunity. I'd been planning to give my notice today anyway. Thankfully, he'd brought the confrontation to me. He howled for about 5 seconds, clawing at his scorched head, before suddenly sagging in relief. The flames died away as quickly as they'd come, leaving no visible scars. His skin looked untouched, but his hair, his once pitiful comb-over, was gone, completely. He stared at me in shock, his now perfectly bald head gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The image was almost comical. I couldn't help myself. My hand curled back, and I swung. The slap cracked across his face so hard, he spun, his body hitting the ground with a satisfying thud. He slid a few feet across the floor before coming to a stop, dazed and sprawled. I stared at my hand in disbelief. What the hell? I hadn't meant to hit him that hard. I wasn't weak before, but this? That had felt like knocking a training dummy across a gym mat. My palm still tingled from the impact. It had to be the union, this new bond with Inari. It wasn't just fire, it was strength too. Cool, I muttered under my breath, unable to stop the small grin tugging at my lips. Voices rang out behind me, the back door creaking open. A few employees rushed in, gasping at the sight of our bald, groaning manager on the floor. Amber was among them, her wide eyes locking onto me. "Chloe," she said quickly, rushing to his side. "Are you sure you should have done that? He's our boss, after all." I turned slowly, my gaze carrying indifference towards my actions. "What?" My voice was low and dangerous. "Should I have just let him kiss me instead?" Amber flinched at my tone, but she pressed her lips tight together, glancing nervously at the man clutching his head. My chest tightened with anger. Was she seriously worried about him after what he had just tried to do? "There's no chance in hell I'd ever get with that man," I spat. She didn't respond. Her eyes lingered on him, sad and conflicted, as if she couldn't bear to see him humiliated. I froze. Had she always been like this? Suddenly, small moments over the past year clicked into place. The times she'd joked about me lightening up with him, the way she'd hinted that maybe I should use what I had to get ahead. The sly smiles when she mentioned how generous he was with girls who played nice. Was she always trying to soften me up for him? Trying to nudge me toward his bed like some kind of offering? Disgust rolled through me. I had thought Amber was at least a friend. Someone who laughed at the same idiots I did. Someone who understood the grind. But looking at her now, kneeling by his side, concern etched across her features, I saw her clearly. There was no friendship in her eyes, but calculations on how to get even further ahead. Just another person willing to overlook anything for the sake of money. This bitch. To think I actually believed we were close. But honestly, I barely had anyone else to compare her to, So part of this was my fault for not seeing it sooner. The mark on my hand burned warmly, as if Inari agreed. I exhaled with a heavy sigh. My decision was made. Obviously, I never planned to stay here any longer, but this makes the regret of leaving my once thought-to-be best friend completely justified.